In this tutorial, we'll go through the transitions for After Effects. We'll see what's included, how to use and how not to use these transitions, and how to customize them to get as much out of these transitions as possible. Before we start, you should know the one and probably the only important rule of these transitions. Don't overuse them. It can be tempting to use a lot of them at once between your shots, but keep in mind that less is more. A single well-placed transition will always be miles better than a mess of multiple good-looking transitions placed after one another. Now let's get into After Effects and see what we can come up with there. So, I have 3 shots here that I want to smoothly transition between. Let's start with the first 2 shots. I want the transition to be seamless, so let me go to Composer and look for this camera folder that has a bunch of other subfolders full of camera-like transitions. Not sure which camera transition type will work best here, but let's first try one of the camera pan ones and see. And let's go with this one. But before I do that, I'll turn off the sound by unchecking the Add Sound checkbox here. And let's preview it. Yeah, no, that looks a bit weird. I think it's because the camera is already zooming out a bit in the second shot. And this panning transition doesn't match that movement. So to connect the transition to these shots, I might need one that also zooms out to match. That means that I'm pretty confident that one of the camera zoom transitions will work way better here. I'll want it to be zooming out with some slight distortion on top, so I'll scroll down a bit to ones that are not just simple zooms. This one should work nicely, so let's add it. I'll remove the pan transition and preview it. That's way better. A cool thing about these camera transitions is that you can very easily customize where the camera zooms in or out of. I can select the transition layer, move the playhead a bit so I can see the changes I'm making, select the pan behind tool, and move the anchor point to where I would want the transition to zoom out of. So for my example, I would want the transition to zoom out from the tablet on the screen here so that it matches my previous shot and creates a nice seamless transition. Now, with the transition still selected, I'll look at the controls. There's a bunch of them, but for this example I won't change much. I'll just add a bit more blur. One more thing before I move on. You can also change the point that the transition zooms out from in here as well, but it's exactly the same as using the pan behind tool and acts as a correction for when you need to be pixel perfect. Looks good. But now I need to add a second transition to the second and third shots. It's going to be the same zoom transition, so I'll just duplicate my current transition and change the order of the layers so that it's on top of these shots. And I'll move it so that the cut marker matches this other transition point. Now that it's in place, I'll move the anchor point of this transition onto the camera viewfinder the same way as I did before. The other thing I'll want to do is change the duration of this second transition, since I don't like how long it is. I can very quickly do this by simply selecting the layer and trimming it to where I want. This duration change also affects the pitch of the transition sound. But since I have a version of the transition without sound, I obviously won't hear any changes. So, let me replace this real quick with one that has. I'll just select the transition in Composer again, and check the Add Sound checkbox that I unchecked previously and replace it. Now if I trim it again, the sound is adjusted as well. Even though you should keep your transitions simple, sometimes combining multiple transitions might fit your shots better. I'll be combining some in this example, but to start off, I'll find a simple way to transition first and work from there. A slick way of transitioning between 2 shots is using a camera pan transition in the direction of your shots. So, let me add a pan transition and see how it looks. I'll go with the simple pan short transition, and I'll also import a left panning variation of it first and see if it's good. Alright, looks good. Now, on to controls. I could adjust the direction angle, maybe decrease the blur amount, and add a hit animation at the end. For good measure, let's turn on the color distortion as well. Perfect. But let's try something different. I do want to keep the current placement of this transition, so I won't delete it and just use the replace feature when I find a new transition. I want to try a roll transition here, so let's go to the roll folder. I'll go with the panoramic roll transition and choose the top left variation. And instead of pressing add, I'll press replace while having my previous transition selected in the timeline. I'll just quickly move the layer so that the cut marker matches where I want my cut to be. That's definitely interesting, but it really doesn't match the shots. It's way too animated and over the top for this, so let's find something else. I think I'll stick to a horizontal-only transition. Since I don't want to use a panning transition again, I'll add one from the camera shake folder. And there's a horizontal one already ready to go. So I'll just select this one and replace it with the panoramic roll transition. Looking good. In the controls, I could add a secondary tilting animation to the transition, add a bit of optics distortion, or once again, turn on or turn off the color distortion, among other options and controls. Now, I want to add a light leak on top of this shake transition to better cover some of the mirroring edges. I'll go to Light Leaks, then Organic, and look for one. To not waste too much time, I'll choose one from the top here. So let's maybe go with this one. And let's see how it looks. Alright, that looks good. I'll just want to trim the length of the in and out animations now. The in animation could be a little faster, so I'll trim it first and match it with the start of the shake transition underneath it. And the out should be a bit longer. I'll go a bit past the transition this time. Think this should be fine. One more thing. Let me just reduce the opacity of this light leak a bit. I'll just lower it by around 10%. That's nice. It isn't as seamless as just using the short panning transition, but it fits nicely and adds a bit more dynamics to my shots. Staying with the camera transitions, we'll be adding one to these shots and changing the zoom point once again, but this time using keyframes for more flexibility. I would want to zoom into the left eye and zoom out from the close-up of the eye after transitioning. I'll want to add a zoom into out transition, so I'll go to Camera, then Zoom, and select this one at the top. Before importing it, I'll turn off the sound since I don't want any audio in this example. Add it and preview it. Looks good, but let's zoom into the eye now. With my playhead on the cut marker, I'll open the transform properties of this transition layer in my timeline, and I'll add keyframes for anchor point and position here. This sets our zooming out animation on the second shot to the base middle position. Now I'll move my playhead a few frames back, and using the pan behind tool, I'll move the anchor point onto the left eye. Last thing I'll do is move these newly created keyframes one frame before the keyframes on the cut marker. Let's check if it's good. And it matches perfectly. All of these transitions can be used anywhere and for anything. Just remember to keep in mind the context of your shots and never overuse the transitions. And if you want to experiment with some of these transitions, you can, as some are included in the free starter pack that's available right now. That said, experiment, play around, and create something cool. Get this at mrhorse.com.